Welcome to the AFC Northcast special edition. It is Wednesday, September 9th, approximately 23 hours until the NFL season kicks off. And I think it's official. Odell Beckham Jr. is a number 2 receiver.
Oh, is this the poop joke?
Yeah, I think it's my favorite joke that came out of that. The only good thing that came out of that. Everything else, whatever. Who cares? But
I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even hear it. I don't really know what happened, and I guess we should talk about it because we're obviously not that good at analysis. So if we get a good news stories like this, we need to really jump on it, right?
I
So
don't even know if it's really news. Um, some chick that is involved with OBJ, I guess, went on same podcast as the young lady who is now of Phoenix Suns folklore for being
oh,
very generous to multiple people in the same room at the same time.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, this was a different young lady, and she revealed that Odell Beckham Jr. may or may not like the poopy play. Just say that.
As long as it's not spreading any sort of infections around, you just got to be hygienic.
That's right.
Uh, we love is love.
That's right. Just be safe. No pink eye. That could really
That's
affect
right.
you as a wide receiver. You need your vision.
Yeah,
So be safe out there,
yeah.
OBJ.
It doesn't surprise me that a person that finds themselves in a professional career where they're not allowed to express themselves at all, they, maybe take it to further extremes in the venues in their life when they are allowed to express themselves. So,
Maybe, yeah,
OBJ, I'm glad. I'm glad that he's found a way to lovingly express himself consensually with others. It's seems to be pretty rare actually these days.
maybe this is Roger Goodell's fault if he would let these guys have some freedom on Sundays. Maybe this avenue never gets explored.
I'm no Sigmund Freud, but it's possible that if OBJ could just wear whatever sneakers he wanted, he might have a more
Watches,
conventional
whatever.
sex life.
Yeah,
He might have a more conventional sex life, but who knows? Would he be a happier man that way? Who am I to say?
that's right. Anyways,
Wow.
yeah. We are going to get into a season preview for the whole division and a week one preview uh, this week. And we're also going to preview what Chad's drinking.
I am drinking Whirligig's Experimental Pilsner. Whirligig is the newest brewery in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, and they're I would call them a nano brewery if you're into the silly terminology of it all. But they're fun. It's nice, easy drinking beer, which is what I need right now after I don't know, I might have COVID or something. Probably just a little food related bug, but I haven't been feeling that well all day today. My wife thinks it's fantasy football jitters. I've had all my drafts this week. How about you?
We typically have our draft the Sunday before the season, but somebody had a quail hunting trip, and so we had to move it. We had it last weekend, which normally I'm super against, but since there's no preseason games anyways, I feel like it didn't really make much of a difference.
Yeah, you could do it in June or today, and
Yeah.
nothing really, nothing happened except Ray McLeod, who those of you that watch Facebook know that I came out for, made the Steelers. But we'll talk more about that stuff after. Should we jump into uh, probable bottom dweller, but super exciting, happy fan base right now, Cincinnati Bungles?
Let's
Love
talk
it.
about the Bengals. The Bengals will be officially starting AFC Northcast favorite Darius Phillips at cornerback on Sunday against the Los Angeles Chargers.
Outside corner, right? Like he's not even the nickel.
Yeah, he's like the number two.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. With that being said, we talked last week, and I was like, you know what? Like, if the Bengals go 6-10, like, you can feel good as like a fan base that you're headed in the right direction.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. I had a hard time finding 6 wins for the Bengals.
I got to
Um,
5.
I had 4-12, um, and I felt like maybe so I had them going winless in the division, and I feel like
Yeah,
that's unlikely, but
agreed.
I just couldn't pick where to put it. Um, so yeah, if they got a win in the division, that would be 5-11 for me.
Though that's what I did. I said one division, didn't identify it. It'll be the Steelers or the Browns, almost certainly.
Well,
I don't think it'll be the Ravens, and we'll get to that, but I don't think that would happen. And then I got the Jags, the Washington Potatoes
yep,
slash Football Club, the Dolphins, and the Giants.
yep. We are in step.
Joe Burrow's not losing to the Dolphins.
Tua might
All
be
right,
playing by
so they're
then.
exactly. You cannot lose to Tua. You can't, right?
No, no, he's got a
Yeah.
big boy Tua.
But you know what? It doesn't matter, right? So 5-11, 6-10, 4-12. It's going to be probably in that range, probably. But this is a beautiful, beautiful year to be a Cincinnati fan. Like to me, it's like barring an injury to Joe Burrow, and knock on whatever you think is lucky. Like we don't want that. This is just a year of development. Like, let's just be excited about Joe. You could really watch it just for that. Like, if you just want to
Yeah,
watch Joe and be happy that you had the number one pick and excited, that's enough. If you want to be a little more discerning, the Bengals made a lot of signings on their defense. They've got a lot of young players from the last couple drafts that are progressing into their careers. So you could also be looking to see a little bit more of an improvement on defense, especially like run defense, tackling, some of that kind of stuff. Not even joking, just like general defensive improvements, so that as Joe gets better, you're seeing the whole team kind of gel around him. They have plenty of offensive skill player talent, so I think as Joe gets better, you'll see the offense really improve right away. The defense is more of a question mark. So fun
yeah.
year. It's gonna be
It
fun.
it's already shaping up defensively, kind of similarly to last year with all the injuries that they've been having in the secondary and guys filling in. But they should still be pretty strong up front, you know. So I think, and really, um, if you're not expecting to contend, you could probably argue like you could rather be 4-12 than 6-10, anyways. If you can find
Whatever.
out this year, I know you always want wins, but if you can find out this year that Joe Burrow is your answer, or like at least he's looking like he's gonna be the guy, and you only win 4 games, like that's okay. That's a top 5 pick. Like, sure,
Dude, they have
take it.
literally like 1 to 2 acceptable offensive linemen. Like they don't need to be in the top 5. Like they can be anywhere
They
and get a
signed
player that will help.
Shaq Calhoun,
Do I know? I don't know who that
and
is.
if you're saying who, yup.
That's what I'm saying.
Got cut by the Dolphins, and now he's backing up like 2 offensive line spots week 1. So that's where we're at, man. Yeah, Bobby Hart won.
Stinks. I mean,
He
even the
won his
Bengals,
his position battle. So
the Bengals homers that I listen to prepare for this podcast are like, this guy is not an NFL caliber football
is
player.
it
Like,
Jeff Schwartz?
oh, I listen
Is
to
it
the
that
Locked
one?
On Bengals podcast,
Yeah.
so it's other people. I don't remember their names, but he's not good. So just around the edge, it's gonna be a big old debacle, and we'll get to that pretty soon because the Chargers are a team that can rush around the edge. But did you want to talk about a couple of games that you thought might be kind of key to their schedule that you kind of highlighted?
Yeah, yeah, we can. So the first one that jumped out to me is week two. Um, that's their first divisional matchup.
Okay.
So that, if depending how you feel about the Browns week one, I mean, it's a really big game for both of these teams because I think almost everybody is chalking the Browns up as a loss week one to the Ravens. So they're in a division hole right away, and the Bengals are trying to set the tempo of this new young team. And it'll be really interesting to see how the back end of Cleveland's secondary holds up against Burrow and what they're able to do. So that's one game that I circled. Yeah, and then the Tua Bowl potentially at the end of the year.
Okay. I got a couple. I picked for my first one is the Jaguars in Week 4, and the reason I picked that instead of the Browns game, because I'll get to it, because I have a different division game, is that I think this is the first game that they're going to be favored.
Ooh.
So Cincinnati, this is going to be the first time they're expected to win. Okay, like Joe Burrow has now played 3 games. That's the preseason, right? Joe has had a preseason. He's tasted the speed of the NFL now, and this is going to be the first time that he's expected to win. So I'm just going to be curious to see how that goes. And then I picked Week 7 versus the Browns, the second Browns matchup, because this is a home game.
Hmm.
It's in Ohio. There might be fans by this time at the stadium. So I think that this will be a game where maybe the expectations are a little higher than week 2, where to me there's a pretty high potential for them to get steamrolled. Um, but they'll have seen the Browns before, so he'll have the taste of the division. It'll be a home game. So I think that week 7 Browns matchup, it's not a game that I pick them to win, but I did say they'd win one division game, so this one would be a potential. And then this will be a surprise to you. Week 16, they play at the Houston Texans. The reason I like this game is that now Joe Burrow has played an entire NFL season, presumably since he is out of it. But Houston will probably be competing for the division or a wild card spot, especially if you factor in that there's the 7th one this year. So this
Yeah.
game could very well matter to Houston, and and it will matter to Cincinnati because now you've played the whole year. Now Joe Burrow is effectively not a rookie anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just be curious to see at the end of the year, can he get his team up between he and the coaches? Can they compete? Can they ruin someone's season? And I so that's why I'm excited about that week 16 one. I think that'll be our glimpse of the future for
Yeah.
the Bengals.
Yeah. One interesting thing I heard this week from one of my favorite uh, analysts, or if that's what you want to call it, recently, Mr. Warren Sharp,
Hmm.
much maligned in our circle of friends as being a Ravens homer, had an interesting statistic. It might have been on part of my take that last year the Bengals passed 80% of the time that Tyler Eifert was in a formation on the field. And those are the kinds of like rookie offensive coach, like lazy, silly mistakes where he was saying, if a defense finds a formation or something similar to that, where like they'll get like 65%, like they're salivating about it. It's like it's that much of a tip. So it'll be interesting to see if Zach Taylor is able. I mean, he's still kind of unproven. It's hard to prove anything last year with all the injury circumstances and Dalton and Driscoll and Finley and how all that went down. So it'll be an interesting balance, I guess, figuring out is Zach Taylor holding Joe Burrow back if things start kind of slow, and kind of see how all that unfolds. But yeah, I think you're right. I think the Jaguars game, looking at the schedule, is the first like pretty winnable game for the
Yeah.
Bengals this year.
So they've got some stuff. They've got some stuff and there's some intrigue. And honestly, if this wasn't a game we were going to talk about already, I'm liking the week 1 game. I'm liking it.
Oof.
Dude, the Chargers have to travel. Tyrod Taylor is like, yeah, he's fine. He's like a fine NFL backup QB, but like he hasn't nobody wants him on their team. Like, yes, he took the Bills to the playoffs, but like he's just not that good.
He's a game
And
manager. Yeah, that's his ceiling.
so so what do you see in this game? Or I can talk about it first because I actually think
Yeah.
that if it weren't like the first game of Joe Burrow's career, I'd be like, I think Cincy has like a chance of winning this game. Like there's enough there that I was tempted. That could be the 6th win. Like I really think it. Yeah, dude. So let me just acknowledge a couple things first as to why you should be laughing at me right now. The Chargers have like 3 of the better or best cornerbacks in the NFL when they're all on the field at the same time. They're led by Casey Hayward and Chris Harris Jr. Chris Harris can kind of go out wide or play in the slot, and then they have Desmond King, who's also pretty darn good. So that's not great for Joe because these are people that can actually match up pretty well with the skill positions since he's going to generally feel like they have an advantage of. And you pair the fact that they can stay with receivers kind of long with the fact that they also have Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. And since he's offensive line is, I mean, I just don't think it's very good. And that's the nicest you're going to hear me say it this year. Um, that's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a big challenge for Joe. What do you think?
Yeah, you hit it on the head. That's it. That right there is it for me. Um, it's cliche, but you hear it all the time. Guys say that the biggest difference from college to the pros is just the speed of everything. And that's something that Burrow, as much as you can try to simulate it in practice, he hasn't seen yet because he hasn't even seen preseason speed. Um, and so now you've got Jonah Williams, who, despite whatever his pedigree is from Alabama, is effectively a rookie tackle. And notably underwhelming Bobby Hart as the other tackle against Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. It just spells disaster to me. Um, I
Yeah, it
wouldn't
might.
be upset as a Bengals fan if Burrow takes 7 sacks on like in week 1. Like I think it's a real possibility that he looks totally overwhelmed.
It is. But this is also Zach Taylor's first big opportunity to coach smart, right? Like you just signed Joe
Joe Mixon.
Mixon. You gave him all that money. Now you run the tires right off him. That's what you do when you sign a running back. You
Yeah.
destroy his body and his mind just by beating him to death with all these carries. So you start doing it now. You run inside draws, inside runs. You don't care if he gets hurt anymore, right? You want him to last the season stuff. And screens, right? A lot of screens. Like Cincinnati has been notoriously slow in getting Joe Mixon involved in the passing game. Is your big chance. Protect your franchise.
Yep.
Use Mixon early, get him going, slow down the pass rush. So I I will be very much looking to see how creatively Zach Taylor can take the pressure off Joe, probably by utilizing Mixon, um, and and going inside to keep those edge rushers slowed down a little bit. If it's anything like the Bengals of the past, they won't realize they need to do that until about week 8. Um, so sorry, Joe, but here's hoping. Right, we're being positive. There's been no football played yet this year. Zach Taylor's a new coach. He might get it. So that's my thought. If they can get Joe Mixon going, maybe good things start to happen that way. You got to be protecting him, right? Like he's never even played a game without this preseason. Like they should be running the heck out of the ball,
They
right?
should be running the hell out of it. Yeah.
You know, we're armchairing it over here as people that do not get paid for this, but this is pretty obvious stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And then on the flip side, I mean, we talked about Tyrod's shortcomings if you believe that he's not, a replacement level quarterback or barely a replacement level quarterback. Austin Eckler on the other side, as formidable as the Bengals defensive line was on paper last year, they just got gashed over and over by the run. And so Lou Anarumo's back, and it'll be interesting to see if what they're doing schematically, if Jermaine Pratt develops in run support and Josh Bynes out there making tackles.
yeah,
There's a lot of unknowns this year because of no preseason, and um, I mean Tyrod's at least been in the system with Coach Lynn, more than this year. So I think that favored the consistency end of it. Kind of favors the Chargers also. Um,
yeah. As we slide like a little bit maybe away from like the tactical elements of this game, which mostly come down to like, does Joe Burrow get more than 0.2 seconds to make a decision? Jermaine Pratt was kind of my last note there because he struggled so much early last year, both in run defense, tackling, and also just losing track of running backs coming out of the backfield to catch passes. So Austin Eckler is a great test, like great opportunity for him to show the growth that he kind of started to show at the second half of the season. So if you want to know if Jermaine Pratt is doing better, you'll be looking for number 57 to be getting up from tackling Austin Eckler a lot this Sunday. So that's one I'm definitely curious about. The other obvious, Cincinnati fan stuff. How's AJ Green? Haven't seen AJ Green do anything in a long time.
I read
I
an
don't really.
I read an
I don't.
article today. He might be on a pitch count
Yeah.
week one, so
It wouldn't surprise me. But
that's
he's
not
not hurt
great.
right now. He's like officially playing. So he's a guy that every Bengals fan wants to see. Very high ceiling, excellent player. So we're looking to see him play well, at least not get hurt. Because again, no matter how much we hate each other's teams, we're never rooting for injuries
That's
almost
right.
any of the time. And finally, T. Higgins sightings in the tragic situation in which AJ Green does get hurt, where they just put more receivers on the field. T. Higgins is wearing number 85. So if you see that number out there, you know that their fun, exciting new rookie is out there, maybe going to catch a pass. So keep an eye out for number 85. Uh,
Carrying on the legacy,
Hushmanzada, right?
Ocho Cinco.
Ocho Cinco. Oh my God, you're right. I was thinking about that, and I just was unwilling to look it up. But yeah,
Good old
so
Chad Johnson. Hmm.
I tried to find a rookie to give you guys the jersey number of for every team. So T. Higgins is number 85. If you're excited about a Cincinnati skill player rookie, he's probably the one. Keep your eye out for him this week.
Yeah, yeah. Biggest difference from last year probably is that if you have an opportunity and the Bengals come on red zone or something like that, you will actually maybe want to watch because it'll, at the very least, if it's not exciting, it should be interesting. Um,
Yeah.
Burrow,
So what
Higgins,
kind of?
AJ Green, Mixon, all those guys.
So it sounds like we're both favoring the Chargers to win this game. You think it's multiple score difference here? 23-13,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. The line as of like 10 minutes before we got on here was Bengals +3, which I think is a credit to the Bengals for. I mean,
Hmm.
that's factoring in, Hard Knocks hype gets into everybody every year and this and that, and it hasn't really started to move yet for like when people place bets, but I think that's an easy bet to make. Chargers minus
Just
3.
Yeah, I agree. Just as a reminder too, I love Darius Phillips. He is officially starting on the outside, number 23. Keep an eye out. If he's matching up with Keenan Allen, like I'm just going to be trying to watch that as long as it's on the screen every play because I'm just so excited about this kid. He's fun. He's getting his shot. I'm really hoping he plays well.
All right. So I had
Pittsburgh.
4 and 12. You had 5 and 11.
Yeah, write it down.
Book it. All right.
Book it.
Moving on to the Stillers.
The Steelers. The Steelers will be part of the double game Monday night closeout. I forgot to write down what time the games were this week,
Oh, it's like a
people. I
weird early
apologize.
one.
Yeah, so Pittsburgh plays at 7 o'clock on Monday evening, or 7:10 or something like that. I don't know when anyone else plays, so I apologize. You'll have to use the all-powerful internet for yourselves. Pittsburgh is in a really weird place. I think that you have two teams that are in a very solid place in Cincy and Baltimore, and two teams that are in a very weird place in Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, like, is in a win now mode, which for you is probably hilarious because they're not nearly as good on paper as your team. So it's like kind of a pathetic win now mode, maybe. Um, but it is what it is. Ben is has come back from his injury. I don't know if we went over this, but he's practicing all the time, way more throwing this preseason than he was doing over the last like 10 years of his career. So he's fine injury wise, but is he fine old man wise? I don't know. Nobody knows, right? So there's like definite expectations for this year, and the expectations are like to make the playoffs and win games. Um, and that's probably going to sound weird to a lot of people that don't really feel like Ben is good anymore or that there's any reason to believe that he's going to be good. But that's kind of the way it is. You know, they've got him for 2 more years. They're going to lose a ton of free agents after this year. They did just re-sign Cam Hayward, which is awesome, to a 4 year extension. So that's great. I've got him at 10-6. And do you want me to tell the losses, or do you want to give a generic kind of synopsis of where you think the team is at?
I think that the Steelers are really being overlooked by a lot of people. Um, Friendly banter and team bashing aside, uh, I don't think that it's probable, but it is a couple things happen. It's very possible the Steelers win the division this year. Um, their defense is really good, and we can talk about Ben's age and Ben's injury, but until we see his last full season was pretty fantastic. And so until we see him like actually playing bad, like let's just
Yeah.
hold off on writing off Big Ben. Uh, so I had them at 11-5 or 10 and
Ooh,
6, and
Joey.
that one win difference is if they can get a win from either one of the Ravens games or the Cowboys game, because I'm very high on the Cowboys this year. I think they're really good. Um, so if they get a win there from either of those games, I think it puts them at 11-5.
So my 6 losses, and you could easily turn. I only have one of them as a Ravens, so I'm assuming one Ravens victory, but not really, and I'll tell you why in a minute.
Okay.
So I got Texans, Titans, Ravens, Cowboys, Bills, Browns. I have them splitting with the Ravens and the Browns. I could see them losing both games to the Ravens very easily, but end up beating the Titans or the Texans. Totally plausible to get to that same 10-6. Uh, the Steelers always lose to a team that doesn't sound
I
glamorous.
tried to look for
So,
that game this time.
I
Um,
mean, I think it could be the Bills. It could be the Titans. They play the Texans and the Titans both early.
yeah.
Um, the Texans are the team that everyone makes fun of, but they actually like usually have a stretch of like 8 games that they win in a row every year, and like they're pretty competitive. Um,
I
so those are the ones.
I'll give you a dark horse game to watch. I'm getting all into some of these early season matchups. The first game that I circled on the Steelers calendar is week 2. So this is my everybody watch week 2 because that's when all the shit goes down. I think the Broncos are being overlooked a little bit in the AFC, and their defense and the Steelers' defense. That game could be like a 16-10,
Where is it?
17-13 type of game. And
Where is it?
what's that?
Where is it?
It's in Pittsburgh, but that doesn't really
That
matter
helps.
this year. It helps a
It does.
lot. If it was in Denver, I'd be like really all over it.
I
I'd
think
be like,
that's why I didn't mark it,
if it
because
was
it's
in
in
Denver, I
Pittsburgh.
would have counted it as a loss.
Pittsburgh never cares that much about fans, right? It's all about the travel, in my opinion.
Right,
Like,
as far as away
so
games.
yeah, so
Yeah.
this year, the away situation, like it counts against the Steelers when they have to travel really far. But yeah, I think the Broncos could be okay. See, like that week 2 is a potential game that gets stolen, huh?
Yeah, and also aside from like the weird West Coast game they lose every year, they're not hosting like the Raiders this year, and so somebody's got to come to Pittsburgh and give the Steelers a perplexing early season loss this year, and so I think the Broncos are a prime candidate for that one.
It sucks to have this culture and have it just be so ironclad that I can't even do anything but just nod. Like, yeah, yeah, they probably will lose to the Broncos. I should have wrote that down. Like,
So
to me, it was a Texans Titans thing. Yeah, I think like to me, it's all going to be the end of the year. Um, I think the end of the year is crazy and the Steelers are gonna just have to be on it because week 14 at the Bills, week 16 home versus the Colts, week 17 at the Browns. So 3 of the last 4 weeks you're playing against teams that like I believe will be competing for the playoffs in around the same area as the Steelers probably will be. A couple games above 500,
yeah,
looking for that wild card or maybe division if you're talking about the Bills and the Colts. Um, so I'm nervous. Like the end of the year, like the Steelers are going to need to be healthy and they're going to need to have improved. Like, you know, but if they do well in those games, you're going to hear a really confident Chad going into the playoffs. Real confident. You're not going to like it. It's going to be really obnoxious.
yeah, I think rightfully so. I think I've given my share of respect to the Steelers today. Um, we also, I don't know if you noticed, it's becoming somewhat of a tradition. Just about every other year, the Ravens and Steelers play on Thanksgiving night.
Is that happening this year? That's our
It
Thanksgiving
sure
game.
is. Yep.
I tried to, it's always tempting to highlight a Steelers Ravens game, but I tried to recognize like where each team truly is at. And I didn't do it for the Ravens game because I don't think that the Ravens look at the Steelers as a rival this year. They maybe should, maybe they shouldn't, but I like honestly, I
Yeah,
think
I can
that
see that.
the Steelers played them pretty tight the first game last year, and then that's a long time ago. And then the Ravens backups pants the Steelers at the end of the year, and I think they're just like we're better. I think that's just the opinion. So I'm waiting to see how it plays out. Of course, I'm as excited about those games as any other game on the schedule or more. But I didn't highlight them because I didn't want to presume more than I ought to. The Ravens are favorites to make the AFC Championship game for a reason, and the Steelers have to earn that.
There you go. All right.
They don't have to earn much week 1, though, do they, Joey?
No, they should win very easily. They're only favored by 6 points, and I think that that is also an absurdity. The Giants stink. Daniel Jones stinks. They got a new head coach. They got new play callers. Like this is a bad defense to be like trying out your new offense against in live action for the first time.
Yeah, the Steelers do sometimes come out a little bit slow out of the gate, so I wouldn't be surprised if this was a frustratingly close game. Um, Obviously, Saquon Barkley is really, really great, so you can call some of the shittiest plays that you've ever called, and he can make it work. Um, so that's a concern. That's really the only concern. My only concern in this whole game is Saquon Barkley. Um, Other than that, I just wrote that this should be a coming out party for Big Ben and the defense. Like, I
Yeah.
want everybody just flying around, being so awesome. Many people have said, and by many, I mean like the 2 to 3 people I talk to about football, that the Steelers' defense is due for a regression in the turnover department. Statistics nerds throwing numbers at me. Well, guess what? That regression better not start in week one because Daniel Jones threw 12 interceptions and lost 15 fumbles last
Jeez.
year. So regression can start in week two. We'll talk about it. Week one, I want to see some turnovers. I want some celebrations. I want the whole team, even if they don't even get to return the fumble. I want them running that whole 85 yards to the camera in the other end zone and like, doing a team photo or whatever
Yeah.
together. So that's the one other note that I made. And then, of course, Chase Claypool sightings.
Mm.
We're looking for some Chase Claypool sightings. He's been very much a darling of training camp, but I would expect him to play a ton of offensive snaps, but maybe in the red zone a little bit. But he will definitely be on special teams, and he is a nightmare on special teams. So keep an eye out for number 11 going buck wild trying to tackle somebody that is foolish enough to not call a fair catch on a punt. Number 11, he will be very tall and he'll be very fast, and he's a rookie. So whatever he does, he'll be excited about it. Number 11, Chase Claypool, the next Megatron. Never saw Megatron do a special teams tackle.
True that.
Nice. Had to fit that into this episode. I did it.
So, um, yeah, I think so. I will not be betting on the Steelers, um, because I want to be able, in the very off chance that Daniel Jones takes a step and this is a close game, I want to be able to bask in Monday Night Football, Steelers struggling with the Giants, potentially losing. But if I was able to just bet with my head and leave my heart out of it, I would be drooling at Steelers -6 on Monday Night Football against a rookie head coach and Daniel Jones and that football team.
I like your decision making. It's an emotional game and you want to enjoy those moments. So I think you're making the right decision. Look, money is fleeting, right? But these moments, they stay with you in your heart. They lift you up in times when you're down. So obviously that's not going to happen and you're wrong and you're losing out on a unit or whatever you lamos call it when you bet. Um, but I like the mentality. So I'm sorry that this is not going to be your week.
Yeah, well, depending how far down I am after Sunday, might be sprinkling something on the game, anyways. We'll see.
I like it. So Pittsburgh playoff expectations.
Yes.
Week one, dramatic victory, and by dramatic I mean substantial expectations. Other than that, and maybe a special teams tackle or two from Chase Claypool. Just be looking for Big Ben and all
Yeah.
the stuff you knew and loved from the Steelers 2 years ago, and the defense last year.
Juju return to form.
Juju return form. That would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
All right.
So,
So,
should we talk about our presumptive division favorites, the Baltimore Dirty, Dirty, Rotten Scoundrel Birds?
yeah. Um, so no notes really on like position battles. Deshaun Elliott is the starting free safety. DJ Fluker is the starting right guard. He'll do his best Marshall Yonda impression, which is not a good impression, I can guarantee you. But he'll do his best, and that's all we can ask. Um, I have. Do you want me to just run through the losses that I had?
Sure.
So I had the Ravens losing 3 games. I have them losing to the Steelers, one of the Steelers games there. They play at the Colts week 9. Um, it's after a Steelers game and before a Pats game, and it just feels a little funky to me. Um, and then I think Dallas or the second Steelers game could also get the Ravens. Um,
Okay.
that I think after Kansas City and Baltimore in the AFC, the Steelers are kind of like in their own tier, and then there's like Bills, Titans, Colts, some of those teams. Um, so I think the Ravens could lose either game to the Steelers this year, or both. Um, so I
I
have
love
them.
that.
I have them 13-3, um, which I until looking at the schedule, I was very, very hesitant. I've been asked about like the win total multiple times. I think it's like
Yeah.
10 and a
By
half
me. I
in
keep telling you
Vegas.
you're an idiot for
Or
not putting your
is it
whole
10 and a
mortgage
half?
on it. I thought it was
Or
11 and a
11
half,
and a half? 11 and a half
but
is
still,
high.
who cares, dude?
Um, they're one of three teams with like double digit win total. Anyways, um, but man, talk about like stark contrast to like the Steelers end of their season. The Ravens' last four games are Browns, which like could be tough. Jags, Giants, Bengals. So
Yeah. Dude, your schedule's easy. Like I had to work hard to bring the Ravens down to 13-3. Like that's how like I think the Cowboys are a potential team, but also like I don't know. Everybody's like, "Oh, Dak is so great." I mean, you know what? I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet, people. Um this team is just too Dallas for me. It's too Jerry Jones. Like everything is on a tightrope except it's not Cirque du Soleil. Like they always fall off and die, and everyone leaves the tent screaming. Like it's terrible. Like they always muck it up. So I have them losing to the Chiefs, Colts, and one division game. I would have loved to pick the Steelers as that, but again, they trounced the Steelers with their backups the last time they played, and the Browns actually trounced Baltimore last year. So I thought, out of respect, I should have at least acknowledged that the Browns have at least as likely a chance of beating the Ravens as the Steelers do. Um, Probably not week one, though. I would say it would be the second Browns game. So that's how I got them down to 13-3. But I mean, to me, this could easily be 14-2. And if they beat the Chiefs, like I don't know,
yeah,
like
if they
I
beat the Chiefs week 3, I'm changing my prediction to
yeah, to win all
16
the
and
rest
0.
of the
Yeah,
games. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, assuming they haven't lost before that. But yeah, so to me that makes the key games those three, right? So it's going to be
Yep.
week 3 against the Chiefs because of course, like dude, that's such a fun game. Like that's like a key game of the NFL season. Like you got Lamar, you got Patrick Mahomes, you got all these exciting players. It's just going to be great. And then week 9 at the Colts. I think to me the Colts are like a slightly exaggerated version for me of what Denver is to you. Like this team was well coached and winning last year with like less. They're just better now.
They
They're
blew
just better.
like 8 fourth quarter leads or something last year.
Yeah, because of Vinatieri. Like he
Talk
couldn't
about
kick.
regressing to the mean, things that regress to the
Yeah,
mean, like
progressing to the mean in
there,
this
right?
situation. I think.
Yep.
So to me, the Colts are a team that like. I mean, I could pick them to sweep our division. Honestly, like I think they're a sneaky, really good team,
Yeah.
and that could all fall apart because Philip Rivers is our quarterback, and like maybe you could just say all the same things about with Ben. He kind of had a down year. Is he just old? Like, is he just not good anymore? Yeah, maybe. But I think he's like better than what they were doing last year. So that Colts,
Can't blow a fourth quarter lead if you're down 9 points with 2.5 minutes left, and you're Philip Rivers.
yeah. And then I chose the for the division game week 14 at the Browns. Um, we're talking about Jedrick Wills being a full season into starting to be at that level, which I think If you listen to Joe Thomas talk or something like that, ex Browns excellent lineman, he'll be in the groove by then. So the offensive line should be performing at peak. Everybody should be pretty comfortable in the offensive system, and they should have added enough diversity within that system that they could give the Ravens defense some problems. So Week 14 at the Browns, I think, will be hopefully a good test for them, and they might not face that many this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk out of both sides of my mouth here, not surprisingly, because I listed the Colts as like an L, but that's following a bye week, and so maybe that's an oversight on my part. I'm pretty confident in the Ravens after a bye week, just like I think
Yeah,
most well-coached teams, the Pats, the Steelers, like bye weeks are pretty surefire get right weeks, and that Week 14 game follows two Thursday night games in a row, which benefits the Ravens as far as scheduling goes even more to have like basically a mini bye week before the last 4 weeks of the season. Um,
yeah, it's
but
hard to find losses for this team. Like
yeah,
they should be favored in every game, except for maybe
really
the
upset
Chiefs.
that we're getting robbed of the Chiefs in Baltimore proper. Without a stadium full of fans, but it's okay. I'll live.
I mean, it would just be like a bunch of really sad people taking taxis home afterwards. So it's like the one game you're going to lose legitimately. The rest, like, but I understand. For you in your mind right now, it's like a rivalry. It's a
Yes.
rivalry between two similarly talented teams. One that actually maximized its talent, beat equal teams, and won the Super Bowl, and another one that fell flat on its ass and is an extraordinary disappointment. So I get it.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
excited to change that story.
kind of like the year before the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, they fell flat on their ass and experienced disappointment.
No,
I
they
think
didn't
the
fall flat
Chiefs
on their ass.
are.
They lost to the Patriots in like an epic game. It's nothing like losing to the Titans after like literally mocking them for 2 weeks before you played them.
I
It's
think the Chiefs are 2 years ahead of the Ravens as far as like quarterback timeline and things like that. So I I it would be impatient of me to expect the Ravens to be visibly, like obviously better than the Chiefs this year, or maybe even next year. But it's coming.
well, they may be 2 years ahead, but they're basically equal in terms of NFL and team building timelines at this point. So it's like an advantage is an advantage. It's just
Yeah,
there. To me, Baltimore expects to be in the AFC Championship game, and frankly, like at this point
yeah,
with this team, like not making the Super Bowl is just like a huge disappointment.
agreed.
You're basically in the position of like the Peyton Manning Colts teams. Like it just sucks when you don't make the Super Bowl because your team's really good. So you're playing the Browns week one. What do you see in that game?
Um, I see the middle of the field that's exploited. The Browns starting middle linebacker.
Sion Taki.
No, sir. His name is by the depth chart. His name is B.J. Goodson, and he's gonna
Where's
have
Sion playing?
Mac on one side and Taki on the other side of him.
Wait, Mac is back?
Is he? I don't know. He was on the top of the depth chart that I looked at.
Mac Wilson?
Yep.
Didn't he like hyperextend his knee and have all sorts of problems?
I don't know. Let's look at the depth chart. Good radio.
I'll talk about stuff. I think that this is going to be a great test for the Ravens' offensive line and their chemistry with DJ Fluker. Baltimore has a crazy deep and talented defensive line. They're going to be doing all sorts of stuff. The only thing that they probably won't do is tons and tons of fancy stunts and twists, maybe a little bit, but because they're all individually so talented, um, just everybody's going to have their hands full on the Baltimore offensive line. in this game, especially in passing situations. So I'm really excited to see just if the Ravens' offensive line is still, how they do. It's going to be a very immediate, difficult test. And I think that these teams, both unusually for the NFL, really, really love to get that running game humming. And without having any real tackling of note for most of these teams since there's been no preseason games. I'm just going to be curious to see like if either offensive line can actually win. Like can either team's offensive line you know, take over and bully the other team at all. So I'm excited about that. Should I go on?
Yeah, he didn't practice today, so
And he hasn't
I don't know.
practiced
So
for
looks like
weeks.
BJ Goodson's going to be on the field at some point trying to run around with Mark Andrews and or defend the run and decipher the mesh point, what's happening, and some read option stuff. So I think that favors the Ravens for sure.
Yeah,
I did get like boogeyman heebie jeebies when you brought up tackling because the Nick Chubb game last year, the tackling was a problem, and that scares the shit out of me.
well, Nick Chubb is not an easy person to tackle. So, like, that's going to be an issue. I definitely also made a note that Mark Andrews could be a huge problem. And that's tricky because I actually think that there's a chance that as the year goes on, Mark Andrews becomes not Lamar's favorite target.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's this game. I think this is Mark Andrews' big game. Um, I'm also excited to see Deshaun Elliott, his first game. You got a guy in Odell Beckham Jr. that seems to be healthy and can certainly take the top off of the defense. So he will have to be paying attention to what he's doing. I know that you're confident that your corners can match up with OBJ, but like, look, he's like a top 5 wide receiver when he's healthy in the NFL. So like he's gonna get open a couple times,
Yeah.
and it's Elliott's job to make sure that it doesn't hurt the team too much. So if you don't know anything about Deshaun Elliott, but you want to follow him failing, he's number 32. So if he is lagging way, way behind the screen on a long touchdown, and he's number 32, that's Deshaun Elliott not
And
being an adequate replacement for Earl Thomas.
that makes him exactly a replacement for Earl Thomas, actually.
Not on pass plays. That's if he does it on a running play. Um, and of course, we want to be watching for Patrick Queen sightings. He's going to be on the field plenty. He's number 48. So my expectation is that he is going to be trained to make decisions quickly and just do it. So what I want to see is him just flying. It might be the wrong direction sometimes. There might be some over pursuits. There might be some getting washed outs. There might be some fully wrong directions, but I just want it fast. And I think that's what the Ravens are going to want to. So, an aggressive Patrick Queen, number 48, look for him to be flying all around like a crazy person, right?
Yeah. And one thing I'll say in the Browns' favor, talked a lot this offseason about Stefanski and personnel and some of the differences between he and Freddie Kitchens. It'll be interesting to see. I think it's to the Browns' advantage to dictate less defensive backs on the field for the Ravens because that's certainly the strong suit of their defense. And so the heavier you can be, which is how Stefanski likes to run his offense anyways, the more linebackers you can force onto the field, I think is a better situation for the Browns, passing out of heavier formations. And so it'll be interesting to see what kind of happens there with that.
Yeah, so interesting point of note. I agree with you on two fronts. One, that also dictating the pace via these heavy formations and stuff is going to mean more run blocking type of scenarios, which Wills, the rookie tackle, he's going to be liking that. Like you want to be able to be aggressive and use your strength and set the tone as an offensive lineman. Pass blocking is going to be where Wills struggles if he struggles. That's their number one draft pick. We're going to talk about the Browns draft next week for sure. Special episode, so
Yeah.
keep an eye out for that. But in the meantime, Jedrick Wills, first pick for the Browns, left tackle. Yeah, left tackle. Uh, he's going to want to run block, and that fits with their scheme. And the Browns kept like 5 tight ends on their team this year. Did you know that? Yeah, so crazy. Guess who the number 2 tight end is? I'll tell you. It's Harrison Bryant, rookie.
Nice.
He passed David Njoku,
Oof.
so look for a lot of these guys to be on the field at the same time. Um, I don't know if the Ravens will even bother to put a linebacker on the field when Harrison Bryant comes out because
Yeah.
he is not a physical uh, presence in the run game. Like Marlon Humphrey should be able to feel confident, like dispatching him and making a tackle in the run game, in my opinion. But he is a tight end. He is a rookie. Everyone in Browns land is very, very excited about this kid. Number 88 is what you're looking for Harrison Bryant sightings. That's the rookie that might be coming in, making a few fun plays for the Browns. And that would line up with your theory that they want to take some of those corners off the field, maybe get a couple, between Austin Hooper and Njoku and Harrison Bryant, maybe some 2 tight end sets.
Yeah, it's like who would you rather have on the field, like Tavon Young or LJ Fort or Chris Board? Like that's an easy choice.
Or that Alaka guy.
Oh,
Yeah,
or Otara
yeah,
Alaka. Yeah.
yeah. Those guys, you want them. They're not
Yeah.
going to do it. They're going to do what the Ravens did last year in the middle of the field.
Mm,
Screw up.
that's okay.
Nevertheless, the Ravens will more than likely win this game. Um, I don't know what the spread is, but I would expect them to win by 10 points at least.
Yeah. The spread is 8 right now. Um, and there were a lot of times last year where I looked at a big spread for the Ravens and was like, ooh. And then they won by like fucking 20 points. Like the Rams game and like some. So that could very easily happen. If the Ravens get up early and the Browns are forced away from Chubb and doing some of these heavy things that they want to do, it could be a really long day for the Browns. However,
Dude,
they showed us last year that if they can get ahead, take the air out of the ball, pound Nick Chubb into this defense, like there is a clear path to beating this Ravens team.
yeah, and they've got the players to do it. So you're right. You're right. I did say I expect them to win by 10 or more, but you're right. If the Browns can get a lead and lean on Nick Chubb, that may well not happen. I still think it'll happen because the Ravens can stay on the run game and just score 2 touchdowns in 2 minutes anyway. So
Yeah.
this offense is just crazy and like just re- it's going to be hard for people to remember how impossible it was to tackle Lamar Jackson last year.
Yeah.
And bear in mind that that was with all the practice, like the tackling practice. Like no one has practiced tackling.
Yeah.
Like Lamar Jackson is going to make at least 2 people look like idiots. Like I mean that with all capital letters. That's a promise.
It's
You can bet
funny, you
on
could
that.
watch like training camp videos and he'll just like point at defenders like as they're running down the field and like cuz it's all like the slide and glide stuff and he's like, "Oh yeah, like you two were running full speed." And he'll just go back to the sideline and like joke around with Hollywood Brown because they're just faster than everyone else out there. They were like, "Oh yeah, in a real game, I'd have had him for sure. He would have been able to stop." Like, the guys are just mutants. They're ridiculous.
Yeah. Yep. So they're really good, and they should expect really good things to start happening as of week 1. 13-3. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Because I don't think the Steelers get to 13-3. So hopefully it's more like 11-5, and they lose both games to the Steelers and one to the Browns. They lose to the Cowboys, and all that stuff happens.
We'll see.
Right? Why not?
We'll see. Some universe and some simulation that'll happen. So All right, you want to move to the other side of this week one matchup? Talk about some outlook for the Browns season here.
Yes. Oh man, I almost forgot that. Like, it felt like we talked about Cleveland, but you're right. We have not fully talked about Cleveland. So I think Cleveland's in a similar spot as the Steelers, believe it or not. Like, you could make the case that they're still being a little bit patient because they just transitioned coaches and stuff. But dude, this team is like it's 3 years into having a really talented roster. Um, there's no stop screwing around. Like, it's time to win. Like, I don't care how much, administrative transitioning is going on now. Like, every position is full of good players.
Yeah,
Like, they're all good now. Everybody is good. That means you just got to win. Like, sorry, Stefanski, that you don't get a year to like settle in, but you don't. Like, it is time for the Browns to win. In my opinion, playoffs. They've been so bad for so long that if they make the playoffs, that's good enough for this year. But like, they're just so good. Everybody's so freaking good on that team. Like, they got two all pro running backs. They got two all pro receivers. They got the number one pick at quarterback. They got a Pro Bowl tackle. They got a first pick tackle. They got the best center in the division. Their defense is full of good players. Even when they get hurt, there's more good ones behind them. Like, their roster's really good.
yeah,
So, what's the problem? Our teams are the problem. We just keep beating them.
yeah. The
Seriously.
our teams, and I tell you what, man, like there's a lot of talk about how easy our division's schedule is, and like yeah, the NFC East is mostly underwhelming, but the AFC South is no joke, and I think the Browns until they like find like beat this like stigma of being the Browns, like I lean towards these other teams when I like instinctively when I look at these matchups. And so I could talk about wins or losses because I had them just first glance go through the schedule 8-8, and they could very easily win a couple of these AFC South games, or upset the sweep. They could sweep the Steelers or Ravens. Like there's a way that happens, and make the playoffs pretty easily. But I just gave the nod to like the Titans and the Colts. Like I just don't see those teams that have done a little more winning, and they're a little more, I guess, established in themselves than the Browns are.
I have 7 losses, and I will run them by you, and you see if you know what the extra one is for you off the top of your head. It looks like I have the Ravens once, um, which is kind of hilarious because I have the Ravens at 10-3, but I have Cleveland and Pittsburgh beating them for 13-3. So I guess I actually have the Ravens 12-4 based on not actually looking at this schedule closely. Anyway, Ravens once, Cowboys, Colts, Steelers, Titans, Texans. Um, that's only 6, isn't it? Maybe I did have Ravens
You
twice then.
only so yeah, I mean it really depends on what they do against the Ravens and Steelers. Like that's to me like that's makes or breaks their schedule for me.
Yeah,
But did so they split with both the Ravens and the Steelers last year, right?
yes,
Is that correct? Yeah.
that is
So
correct.
if they split again with the Ravens and the Steelers, I would have them at 9-7 also.
Yeah, I guess I
So
I didn't write down a seventh loss. I don't know why. It's hard to say why I do the things I do. Um, 10-6, 9-7. I think they're a good team. I'm tired of them being losers, and maybe they will be again. But to me, their schedule is easy, and they're good. Like, they have good players, so like they don't need to even have a genius. Like, Freddie Kitchens should win with this team.
yeah,
Everyone should win with this team.
yeah,
So to me, the key games, I love it when I can find a stretch. And for me, Cleveland was the team that I got to find like a stretch. And I think that actually like the beginning of their schedule is tough, which is a problem because they got to get Wills into it and they got all this stuff. They might be 2-4 after 6 weeks. Week 4, Cowboys. That's an away game. Week 5, Colts at home. Week 6, at the Steelers. Um, that's just a tough 3 week stretch. But if you come out of that stretch like 2-1 or like winning any of them, like if you win at the Steelers, like that's a that's a good win. So to me, if they win one of those games, that basically puts them in position to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Um,
Because then
so
following that game, you have Bengals and Raiders, winnable games. You go into a bye week, and then Texans, Eagles, Jags, like
yeah,
all
like
winnable games.
that should be 5 wins.
Yeah.
Maybe the Texans you lose. I think I have them losing that one, but like it's definitely winnable. Like
Yeah.
the Texans are not markedly better than the Browns for
They're
any
not.
reason
Their
except for
defense is
history.
not scaring anybody this year,
Yeah.
and you could argue that their offense is worse. They traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson. I mean, that's just how. Like, it's hard to argue that their offense is improved.
Yes, it is very difficult. Um, I really think that this team should make the playoffs. I really do. I don't love thinking that because it's like could be prohibitive to the Steelers.
Yeah.
Um, but like if you just go through the rosters, like the Steelers roster is good, and Browns roster might be better at almost every position.
Yeah.
Like so so what's the problem? Like it's just like if they lose, I have to make fun of them. Like I have to. There isn't another choice. It's like I have to make fun of the Ravens for losing to Tennessee last year. You forced my hand, they forced my hand. It was terrible. Like if Cleveland loses all these games and they finish 9-7 or 8-8, like even 9-7, come on, come on. You got everybody you could ask for. Like if you don't win this season, if they finish 8-8, what does a GM even do? What does a GM even
What
do?
more could he do? Yeah.
Like I guess get another linebacker. I don't know. Like shit.
Yeah.
So to me, the time is now. Maybe you give them a year of grace period to learn the new system, but like this is just a good team that should be beating most of its opponents. So it should be a really good division in my opinion. Like Cincinnati is way below, but like with Joe Burrow and some of their other talent, like they'll still be fun to watch, and they could easily surprise, probably, frankly, Pittsburgh because they're the ones that lose games like that. But like they'll be fun, and I think like Cleveland and Pittsburgh are kind of on even footing, if not for the culture of the teams. And then Baltimore is like a Super Bowl favorite. So we got good football to watch this year, people.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, that wraps us up for week 1 and the season. So you don't even have to watch now because we just told you what will happen. But we highly recommend that you watch anyways because it'll be fun. Um, who you got tomorrow night? Just Chiefs, Texans. Any chance the Texans win?
Not a statistical chance. Like,
Yeah.
yes, there is technically a number, but it's very small.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
the Chiefs are so
but
good.
I'm excited about the offense. I think, like Will Fuller, this is going to be one of the 3 games he's healthy. Brandon Cooks maybe is hurt, sucks. Like, I actually think like the Houston offense is going to be pretty fun.
Yeah.
And I think David Johnson, like he could have an okay season. Like he's probably not going to be, a top guy, but and it doesn't really matter if their defense is bad because like the Chiefs offense makes every defense look bad. So
It's
really it
true.
just becomes like can you get a couple timely stops and play good offense? And they might be able to do that. But yeah, Chiefs are awesome. Like come on now.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. We get to see Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited about that because I enjoyed watching his college highlights so much, and then he has just become such a focal point of everybody's like rookie excitement. So it makes me feel a little bit smart, that I liked his 5 minutes of highlights more than some of the other people's. So I just know what I'm talking about, people. I
I
just know
get to
what I'm talking
be super anxious about week 3 for a couple days after watching the Chiefs and not having seen the Ravens yet. It'll be great.
Yeah, I wouldn't dwell on it. Like all you really need out of that game is for the Ravens to just look like they belong on the field, and then they won't play again for so long that you just look back 3 months and you're like, well, Ravens were like, a couple
Yeah.
bounces away from a
I mean, it's
one
like
score
last
game.
year. I mean, they lost in
Yeah,
Arrowhead early last year. Like, so. All right, everybody. We are going to figure out our podcasting schedule for the season. We would probably not be doing 2 shows a week, I'm thinking. We'll try to mash everything into one show every week, a recap and a preview. Previews will probably be quicker.
yeah, and we don't need to tell the stories. All of our fans are watching these games. We're just gonna tell them some fun little stuff about the games. It was notable, and
Yeah,
we can do it. I think I'm
yeah, we'll
I'm
do it.
liking Wednesdays right now. This feels good to me.
Yeah,
The night
yeah,
before the Thursday game gives us a chance to get it out before the Thursday game. Maybe maybe
yeah.
Tuesdays. We'll talk about it. Tuesday or Wednesday, people. Just hold your breath.
Keep your eyes peeled. The our Twitch fan, our one Twitch fan, Cold Heatwave says hi. He was here way early in the beginning of the show, and I don't know if he's here anymore. But he said hola, and then he said Dak Prescott because I mentioned the Cowboys. I guess he must be a Cowboys fan. I
Yeah. Hopefully you heard me say that I think that they're lame and not good.
don't know. Very Jerry Jones team. Anyways, everybody have a good week. Enjoy. Football is upon us, everybody. There's one more sleep. By the
I
time you're
guess that
listening
means
to
the pandemic's
this,
over.
you'll probably have football. You said the pandemic's over?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
must be.
it's done. The NFL is going to kill COVID-19 tomorrow.
Just like John Gruden said.
Hallelujah.
Goodbye.